Okay guys, welcome back to episode 4, I think. Let's just check quick. Episode 5 actually of our ChatGPT game. We are creating the game called Kong. Not Kong, that's, where did I get that from? Called Pong, where you have two paddles on either side of the game, and you have a ball that goes from one side to the other, bouncing off the walls. And the aim of the game is to stop the ball from going behind your paddle, otherwise your opponent gets a point. So today we are using, well, in this game generally we're using ChatGPT to generate all the code for us. And in today's episode we are going to start working, or we're going to go and fix the movement of the paddles so that we can get that done, because after that's done I think it's mainly just the UI that we have to create, so the score indicators, and then we also need to add in some sort of score implementation so that when the ball does go past the paddles it then gets destroyed, but then it also adds a point onto the opponent's score indicator. So let's jump into the game and figure out how to change the paddles. So the way ChatGPT did it for us was, let me bring this up here. I think I might have deleted it. Okay, so I think this is it. So Pong paddle. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT came up with. It at the start of when the game starts, it goes and fetches the rigid body on it, and then when it looks for the input on the axes, so whichever name, in this case our game is going to be vertical, so it's going to look for when you press your vertical buttons on the keyboard, which is the up and down arrow keys as well as the W and S keys. So when you do press those keys, it's going to go and move the paddle in the correct direction. So if you press the up key, it's going to move the paddle up. So that's fine, that's what we wanted, but this doesn't make the game so that two people can play it individually, which is what we wanted. So we then asked it to move it, or to change it up so that it generates code so that we can use it for individual players, so two people can play against each other on the same keyboard. So this is what it came up with. It included a player number. So what we have to do here is when we go and look for the input axis, you have to give a name to the input axes. So we're going to go and change that in our settings so that when we click on, or when we press the arrow keys, it indicates that a player 1 or 2 is, depending on which one we assign to that set of keys, is pressing those buttons, and the same thing for the W and S keys. So what we have to do is go into our Unity settings, and I was playing around with this the other day just to make sure it does work, so I don't think I deleted it, but what we can go and do it again. So go into your file, I think it is build settings, yeah, build settings, then we go down to player settings, and then in our input, wherever that is, input manager, we see here we have vertical, two vertical inputs here. So if you have never changed these, let me just go and set them to how they were. So if you've never changed these before in your game, you should see yours will probably look something like that, but your second vertical will probably be down here underneath the horizontal, the second horizontal field. So what you want to do is you want to go and delete that one that's down there, and then duplicate another one, and then in the name of it we are going to go and set it to be equal to vertical 1, and then in the second one we're going to go and set vertical 2 to be the name. But what we also want to do is we also want to only assign vertical 1 to use the S and the W and S keys. So we're going to change the negative button to S and the positive button to W. So when we press positive, it's going to move the paddle up, and when we press the negative button, which is S, it's going to move it back down. If you've got anything under, well, you probably should have, if you haven't changed it already, you will have either the S and W key or the up and down key, depending on which one is used as your primary buttons. But go ahead and remove those out of the alternate negative and positive buttons, just so that you can't move them using both sets of keys, because that's not what we want. So in vertical 2 we are going to do the same. Negative is going to be our down arrow, and the positive is going to be our up arrow. So go ahead and do that, and then don't forget to clear the alternate fields over here, these two. Then we can go ahead and close that, and now we should be able to, actually let's go into our code. I think we might have commented it out, yes, because we're getting that error that it said, where it said that our axis name is not found or something like that. I can't remember. So we'll go ahead and uncomment that, and then we can go back to our game and see if this does actually work. So now that we have the axis name equal to vertical 1 and vertical 2, we should double check in our inspector here and see player number 1 is going to be the left paddle. I think that's correct. It doesn't really matter. And player number 2 is going to be the right paddle. Okay. So let's go play the game and see what we get. So I'm going to try and press. Okay, so we have done it wrong. So in our update method here on our Pong paddle, we need to go and swap these around because we want the number to be on the right hand side of the axis name. So here we go and say axis name plus player number. That should fix our error. So we'll jump back into here, and now we should be able to see that the game, when it eventually plays, we should be able to move them, or at least we won't see that. Okay, so they don't move at the moment, but the good thing is we are no longer getting that error when I press the arrow keys and the A and W keys, the S and W keys, sorry. But I remember that to stop them moving, we actually went and froze them. So we need to go and unfreeze them on the y-axis so that they can both move up and down. So let's go and do that, and then let's go and play the game again. And now if I press the up and down key, you should be able to see, and then I can control this one using the A, not that, the, what's called the W and S key. So there we go. We have the left paddle moving with the W and S keys, and then we have the right paddle moving up and down with our up and down arrows. So that's pretty much exactly what we want. You can see they're moving individually and they are not dependent on each other. So that is perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this color change debug message because we don't need that. We are seeing that the ball is changing whenever it hits the paddle. So what we can do, I'm trying to think. Something we could do is go ahead and change the color of the ball whenever it just collides with something. Let's go do that quickly. I just want to see what that looks like. So I'm going to delete that, and then we can do that and see what that looks like. So that should allow the ball to change color whenever it collides with either the paddles or the surrounding boundaries. So let's go see what that looks like. So if we play the game, we should be able to see. Okay, so it does work. So I think that, I mean, I might as well just leave it like that. It adds an extra bit of fun to the game. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. You can change it if you want. You don't have to. It's up to you. So what's next? Now, what we need to do is we need to add some sort of out of bounds zone. So we've got our top and bottom wall. Now what we can do is we can go and create another empty object. This is going to be called out of bounds. So we can save that. I'm going to move it here. Then we want to go and add a collider onto it. This is going to be a box collider because it needs to fill up the entire height of the screen. So on the scale of the Y, I'm going to scale it up to, what's it, 10 maybe? No, that's not enough. Let's go and say 12. So that should be enough. Scale on the x-axis needs to be about, it doesn't really matter. And that's fine. So let us go and move that up just so that it's kind of in the middle. And then what we can do is we can copy that and then paste it at -8. So that pops to the left hand side of the screen. So those should be fine. We can go and rename that just so that it's the same thing. And then I'm going to add another tag onto this, and I'm going to add a simple tag of out of bounds, so OOF. No. Out of bounds. OOB. That sounds right. You could type the whole thing, but I'm not going to bother. I'm lazy. So we'll type that onto there and say select both of our out of bounds and add both that tag onto both of them so that we can figure out which one we are colliding with. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Let's go and create another tag. Just to make this simple, I'm going to say out of left, and then create another one that says out of bounds right. And then on our left one we can go and add the left out of bounds, and on our right one we can go and add the right hand side one. Okay, so now you could do this two different ways. You could easily check if the ball, when colliding with the out of bounds zone, has an X value that's greater than 8, or that's, if it's positive, it obviously has triggered the right hand side of the out of bounds zone, and if it's negative, it's triggered the left hand side out of bounds zone. So, but in our case, we're just going to use tags just to make it simple. But it's up to you. So we'll save that. And now we need to go and add a script onto this. So let's go and add a new script called out of bounds zone. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it that just so that it makes sense. And then in this script we are going to do all of the coding for the out of bounds zone. So whenever the ball collides with it, we want to go and add some score to the opponent. So let's go, and in our assets we have our out of bounds script here. Let's go and add it into our scripts folder, and then out of bounds, we'll go and open that up. So here it is. So this is where we now start using ChatGPT again. So let's go into it, wherever it is, over here. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a new one and say create a Unity C# script for my Pong game and make a function that adds a score to what are we going to say? You try and word this correctly. We'll do it so that there's only one score first, and then we'll make it for 2 players later. So here we can say adds function that adds a score to my score count whenever the ball collides with my out of bounds zone. Let's see what that comes up with. So we do have to go back and ask it to generate a script so that when it collides with the different tagged zones, we get what's it called, a score incremented to the 2 different scores. So let's see what it's doing here. So it's creating a score manager. It's got an integer of score, and then on the collision it's going to add 1 to the score whenever it collides with something that's got out of bounds zone as a name of it. Okay, so that's correct, but it's not really what we wanted to do. So in the script, a score, okay, that's pretty much just explaining that. Okay, so let's go and ask it to do some extra stuff. So let's go and say, first of all, let's figure out what we want. We have 2 players, and each player has their own score. So let's ask it to do that. So let's go and say rewrite the script so that there is a score for both player 1 and player 2. Let's see what that does. Because we have 2 different players, we need to have 2 different scores. So let's see. Now it should be pretty much the same thing, but it should have 2 integers. So integer player 1 score and player 2 score. So collision, game object, out of bounds. Interesting. Players, that's pretty much exactly what I wanted it to do. And not only that, I was going to ask it to do that in the next question or text thing I was going to put in there, but that's pretty much exactly what we want. The only thing that we need to change is the tag. So out of bounds right, that's what we need. So just because I'm lazy, actually I'm not lazy, this is doing more work. So I'm going to say rewrite the code and change the tags to out of bounds right and out of bounds right. So I'm going to change that to right, and I'm going to change this one to left, just because I want the left one to be first and the right one to be first, the same way it's done it here. So let's go and do that and see if it does do what we wanted to do. So it should print out the exact same thing, just changing the tag, the name that's in there. So integer player 1 score equals 0, player 2 score equals 0. Okay, now I do want it to use the tag. So there we go, so using tag. Collision.gameObject.tag is equal to out of bounds left and out of bounds right. Okay, so I'm going to go and copy that. Well, I'm going to go and copy it now, just because it's finished. And then I am going to go and paste it in our game. So the only thing we do need to change is the name of the script. So actually I'm just going to go ahead and delete that and add that like that, because that should be fine. So then we don't have to change our name of our script in the class, as well as the actual name of the file. So we'll save that, and then let's go back into Unity and see. We do have out of bounds zone. We do have 2 scores here. So let's go and play it. So let's see, out of bounds. We need to add that onto this one, out of bounds zone. So let's go and play the game. I'm not going to do anything. I just want to see what happens to the ball when it collides with one of the zones. Okay, so it's clearly not doing what we want it to do, but we also need to go and do something else. So I'm not going to remember we're using ChatGPT to generate code. So I'm going to say rewrite the code so that when the ball collides with the out of bounds zone, it is also destroyed. Because we don't want the ball to continue on moving from one side to the other. We want it to actually get destroyed out of the scene, so that we can go and start the game again. We'll start the next phase of the game, where we go and reinstantiate the ball into the scene, and then go from there. So out of bounds left, which is correct. Out of bounds left. Cool. Destroy game object and destroy game object. That's pretty much what we wanted. So let's go copy that and paste it into our script. Paste it there. I think I just copied that. Let's go and copy it again. So copy that. And then we can go and paste this in here by going Command V, get rid of all of that because we don't need that again. Save that. And then let's go. I don't think this is going to work because the only thing we've done is added destroy game object. But let's go and play the game and then see. Okay, so that's not going to work because we are actually destroying the out of bounds zone instead of the ball. So if you see, okay, so it's clearly not working. So let's figure out why this is not working. So on collision, enter 2D. So first of all, when we do go and destroy the game object, we don't want to destroy the out of bounds zone. So I'm going to go and change this to say destroy collision dot game object. So that should destroy the ball or anything that collides with the out of bounds zone. So let's just go and see if that actually destroys the ball. Because if it doesn't, then we know where the problem is. So okay, so that's clearly not working. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say debug.log collision, just so we can see if it is picking up the collision. Let's go play the game and see what's happening. Okay, so it is registering the collision whenever it collides with the out of bounds zone. So now that's fine. But the thing is, first of all we can get rid of this. So let's have a look and see. So on if collision.gameObject.tag is equal to out of bounds left, which should be correct, out of bounds left, yes it is, then player 2 score is equal to, well, you add 1 to the player 2 score, but then go ahead and destroy whatever is colliding with it. So why is that not working? Let's go and ask Google. Game object not destroyed when colliding. Why won't this object destroy on collision? The object being destroyed is platform. You can see the inspector here. If you are trying to pick up an item with your player and then destroy said item, make sure you have a collider attached to your player. Then in the inspector, give your player a tag. That's interesting. So gameObject.tag. Okay, I think I know why this is not working. So I don't think we need this collision here because that's going to check what the collision, whatever this script is attached to, which it is already attached to our game object, which it is already attached to our out of bounds zone left and right. So we don't need to do that. So that should be fine, I think. Let's go and see if that works. So now we should be able to go and click on one of these. So let's choose the left one. Oh, it doesn't really matter, and keep an eye on our player score here. So if we go and play the game, whenever our ball collides with our wall, which it did, you can now see there's no ball in the inspector. So that is a good sign, but we still don't have, our score did not change. So I think we will leave it there for today, and we will go back and check on that in tomorrow's episode or whenever that is, and we will carry on with our score. And we also need to go and add in some score indicator on the screen, so that makes it easier for us to go and see if it's actually working. So we'll do that in tomorrow's episode, and then after that we need to go and fix the game so that when the ball does get destroyed, when it collides with the out of bounds zone, it actually gets reinstantiated into the scene so that the game can carry on. And then we will probably make it so that the game finishes itself when either the one player wins by 2 going over 11, I think it is. So they have to, when they reach 11, if they have won by more than 2 points, they'll go and win. Otherwise, they have to keep going until whichever player wins by 2 points. I think that might sound a bit too complicated, but we'll see what it's like when we get there. But I think that's pretty much it. So if you didn't see my video yesterday about the slab stacking game, we have a bit of an issue there, so that's going to be on hold for now until I figure out that bug again. But I will see you guys in tomorrow's episode for another game of our Pong game and our ChatGPT usage. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode. Goodbye.